Hi, my name is Leonard Koch and this is a tutorial for LKLightning 2.0. Today we're going to take a look at creating a forest, like here, a growing forest. So we're basically going to recreate this shot here. Pretty simple. We have some terrain here, then we have trees coming up, more trees coming up, moving in the wind, slowly turning towards autumn colors, and then going into full autumn. Yeah, and we're going to use LKLightning for that. So let's get started. Now I've already prepared a scene here, so you don't have to watch me create the terrain. It's just a basic camera move, it's just a rotation, super simple. And we have some terrain here, so if we take a look at this, this is basically the visible terrain, and then I have another part that's basically the part of the terrain that the camera can see. So we'll only be emitting trees from this area, so that we don't have to simulate trees like over here and have to waste a bunch of calculation time. So yeah, we're just going to create them from this terrain. And we're going to do that by going to Primitive and LKL strands from selection. Trees have a trunk, strands make sense. So let's go for that and let it shoot through for a second here. Bam. Okay, and there we go. Now I think we can just hide our terrain here and let's see where our things are. Now, right now there are just these little specks here, and that's because on our emitter it is set to moving by time. That means that if I go in the timeline here, they are actually growing, and there are more and more of them are coming out. So this is basically our forest right now. Let's make a few less of these just so we can have a closer look at the different trees and so that they don't overlap as much. So yeah, that's basically the basic look. Let's take a look at what we have in our ice tree. And what do we have here? We have subdivide strands. I don't think we need this. I mean, trees are supposed to be sort of gnarly and have a bit of sort of movement along there, sort of gnarliness this year, but I don't think we need as much resolution here. If I disable this, we still have pretty much the same basic motion, and we don't really need that really fine gnarliness there in the trunk. So let's just get rid of this one. Turbulized position, this is what actually gives us this gnarliness. If I disable it, then yeah, that doesn't work. So you know, is this a bit much? I would think that's a bit much, so I guess we could reduce it a bit in strength from 0.5 to, I don't know, maybe half of that. But 2 commas won't work. That's a bit little, so maybe 2.8. That's good. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much that. Turbulate Size is another compound that always gets created with the basic setup. This I don't think we need, because this basically makes the trunks go thin and then thicker and thin and thicker, and that's not really how trees behave. They sort of go very thick at the bottom and then they more or less stay the same thickness and then spread out and get thin towards the end. So I don't think we need this. I would set this to something incredibly low, and I don't think that's worth it. So let's just get rid of this. Okay, so we've cleaned this up. Let's take a look at what we have in our emitter. We are emitting 1 particle per second, and it's a constant emission. That means no, not per second, per frame. So that means that we are constantly emitting. If we were to just say single emission, then it would just be one thing, and it would be there on this emit start frame. We don't want that. We want them to continuously growing over time. We're starting at frame 1 to emit, that's good. We want to stop at frame 50, yeah, I guess that's fine, yeah, that's fine. And here's how long the animation is. We're saying that it's moving by time, this is sort of our motion settings here. The speed basically means how far they move in individual settings. I guess we could change this a bit later. And the animation length in frames is just how long they take for their growing process in frames. And you know, I guess that's fine, 60 is good. Progression mode slider is for when you choose moving by progression slider, which allows you to, instead of having it moved by time, to move this progression slider and sort of take control of it. And this is really neat when you are animating something and need very explicit keyframe control over it. But I think moving by time is just fine for this. Direction, surface normals, that's great. Trees sort of grow out in the direction of the woods, of the ground in the woods, so I think that's cool. And local animation time, it's just basically a multiplier for how far along the animation they are. We don't need to worry about that. Size, I think that's something we should worry about once we actually have some trunk here. So all the rest pretty much, yeah, it's all stuff we kind of need to concern ourselves with once we have the branches. So let's create them. And we can do that by going to splitting and checking out, what do we need? We basically just want splits at some time along the trunk. So random segments would be fine. Let's split at random segments. And this plugs into the LKL core as everything does, and it splits, plugs into the splitters. So splitter here, splitter there. And this is starting to look tiny bit like a tree. Not really, these are some really pitiful trees, so let's see if we can do something about that. So what do we have here? Well, we have a bit too few splits, so we could increase the number of splits, and let's just set that to double, like 10. And this is sort of already looking better, but you know, it's definitely like too crazy. Trees are a bit more orderly. And a good way to do that is to go down here to the split direction parameters and change the split direction strength. And this just determines how strongly a splitting strand moves away from its original parent strand. And if we can just pull this down here a bit, that's starting to look quite a bit more tree-like. Maybe it's a bit little, maybe something like 0.1, around 1 looks pretty good. Maybe a bit more. Yeah, and you can just play with these parameters to no end and, you know, just experiment to your heart's content. What are these down here? The stop after split parameters. If I disable this, let me get close up on a tree here, then they all have the same length. So they all end at the same distance as the original strand did. Not really what we want. Branches sort of end early inside the tree. Some grow out further. So we really want to stop after split to enable stop after split. And this will just make them stop at random intervals. I guess they're a bit short at places, so I guess we could put this up maybe to 7 or maybe to 6 and 11 or something. Yeah, you know, just get a bit of randomosity in there. So, and this is already looking quite tree-like. I like this. Cool. So, what else can we do? Well, let's do a quick test render and see what's happening here. Oh, and this looks awful. Why does it look awful? Mostly because everything has the same thickness. Like, everything is wrong here. Like, the branches are too thick and the trunk is too thin. So let's make our trunks a bit thicker for a start. And we can do that on our emitter here and go to size and, I don't know, 0.4. Let's take a look. Yeah, maybe a bit less. Maybe 3.8 or something. I don't want them too thick. This sort of motion these trees have doesn't really look like an oak. It looks a bit more, you know. I can't really think of a good example. And yeah, then we can go on the emitter, on the random segments here, and here there's this magical parameter called thickness propagation. This parameter allows us to decrease the thickness, the size of the strands, every time they get split. So if I set this, you could set it to absolute, you could all just set them to like 0.5, and then they would all have a certain thickness. Or you could set it to relative. Now it will be half of what each original one was. And that's quite a stark fall off, so I think that's too strong. This should be more something like 0.8 maybe. yeah, that's not too bad. But this was especially apparent if we reduce this here a bit more. The trunk is still at the exact same thickness towards the end, which is not really what we want. So what we should do is we should get one of our stylizers, and you can get this here in the styling, and this will allow us to use a curve to manipulate the thickness of our strands over their length. So let's go to styling, and where is it? Modulate size over length. I like that one. So let's plug this in here. This goes into the stylizers. The black ports from the blue, from the styling and from the utility, always go into stylizer or utility. And here we can just do whatever we want. Let's see what the defaults does for us. Yeah, not really. It starts out really thin here, so I guess we would have to get rid of this here. That makes it look a bit better, but it's still falling off too strongly for me. Maybe something like this. Maybe let's not get it all the way too thin. Let's pull this up a bit, you know, like this maybe. Have it a bit more gradual. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's looking nice. I like that. Cool. And I mean, you can tweak with this like endlessly. You can have a lot of parameters in here, but I'm just going to keep it simple. So now we got some pretty solid looking trunks here. I like this. These are some good branches. So that's cool. What else can we do? We have quite a few too little branches here. But if I go to split at random segments and just increase this number, you'll notice that they change because the random seed just puts some at an earlier point. But it's not really becoming more. Like I increased this massively here, and it's, you know, it's 3 times as we had in a second ago, and it's, I don't know, a couple more. What can we do about that? Well, there are these lovely parameters here on our emit from surface node, and these are on every emitter. And that's the split limits. They're all the way down here. I'm sorry that this is such a big compound, but you really need all of these controls to have really the control you need to achieve the results you want. And I hope this makes it clear to you what all these parameters do. Okay, so what do we have here? We have our split limits. Max number of splits per particle. Let's just go to Photoshop and let me explain this to you. So we have 2 parameters. We have maximum splits per particle, and that basically, that was at 3 right now. And that basically says that, let's say this is my trunk, and I have 1, 2, 3 branches going off it. This would be branch number 1, number 2, and number 3. And this is when our split limit is at 3. And even though we have our splitter to set to have more splits here, we can't have this. This is evil. This here is evil. This doesn't work because our split limit is 3, and this would be a fourth split for that trunk. So we could increase that to have more branches coming off our trunk. And we have another parameter. And that's, where is it? The maximum split depth. 3, also at 3. And this works in a sort of different way. This works like this. Let's once again draw ourselves a trunk, like this. And, you know, let's say we have some things coming off here, and they're splitting again, and then again. What does this say? This is split level 0. This hasn't split at all, our trunk. This here is split level 1. It has split once off from the trunk. This here has split off from something that has split off, so it has the split depth 2. And this here has the split depth 3, because it has split off from something that has split off from something that has, well, not split off. But, you know, we couldn't have something like this here. Let's do something like this. This would be 1, 2, and then over here we have 3. We have kind of multiple here, 2, and this is 3. We couldn't have this one because this one would be 4. We can't have this because 4 is, as you might have noticed, greater than 3. And 3 is our maximum split depth, so this doesn't work. So if we want more branches, sort of wanted more branching out after it has split off from the trunk, we need to increase our split depth, maximum split depth. And if we want more splits along the trunk, say we want a fourth one and a fifth one, then we would have to set this to 5 in our maximum splits and maximum number of splits per particle. So I hope these parameters make sense to you now, and yeah, let's just dig into them. Let's see what these do. We've understood them sort of conceptually now. Let's see what they do in practice. So yeah, let's increase the number of maximum splits per arc, so that we have more splits coming off our trunk. So like 7, 8. Yeah, and this is already looking quite a bit more detailed. But still, we don't really have that, you know, that deep detail in the top branches, you know, where you have those tiny branches coming off. So what we could do about that is to just change the split depth to increase that. And, you know, can go to, I don't know, 4. What's that look like? Oh, that's 5. And yeah, that's kind of the detail I want. Let's see if we increase it further to like 6. Yeah, not really that big of a change. So yeah, see, this is really starting to look like a tree. So whenever you're dealing with splitters, also always take a look at these split limits, and here remember how they work. I hope this makes sense. If not, then you can just ask a question in the comments, and I'll try to maybe make a different tutorial on this and really make it clear. Alright, so we have our trunks set up. Let's see how these render. Yeah, oh, that's nice. That's looking really realistic. I'm very fond of this. Very cool. Okay, and I shouldn't, you know, boast about my own stuff here, but I really like how this looks. This looks quite realistic, if you ask me. What else can we do? Well, in our animation here, we saw that we had leaves, which is not really something that existed. And oh, we also have animation. The trees are moving in the wind. Not quite realistically, I admit, because I sort of messed up the animation in this render. But they are moving. So what can we do about that? Well, we're not just growing something. Yeah, I mean, we're literally growing it. So we actually have control over how it grows and what its dynamics are. That's the cool thing about LKLightning. So we can just use one of our controllers to push these in different directions and make them move in however way we want, and they'll still look like trees. So let's go to the controllers. And what would be a good idea? Well, a direction controller, just sort of in which direction the wind is blowing. And we need a null for this, so let's just make ourselves a null. And this will basically just create a wind that blows in the direction the null is pointing. Really simple. Let me change this to bigger size and rings so that we have a proper symbol. That's cool. And you know, let's just pull this in. Connect it to the direction controller. There's this null part over here. And you know, just plug it into our controller direction. And you can pull as many of these as you want in there. And it's not working for some reason. I'm not happy with this. Oh, of course. Haha. Why is it not working? Well, because we have a cutoff distance enabled. This is quite a large scene. 50 is quite big, but this is a very large scene since we're dealing with trees. So if I sort of move this over here, then oh yeah, we're suddenly affecting it. But I kind of want this effect to be pretty much global. I want every tree to be affected. So let's just, you know, disable the cutoff distance, and oh yeah, do we have an effect now? Man, that's some strong wind. This looks like after the Tunguska event. So let's reduce the strength here a bit. Quite a bit. We're approaching something. It's too little. 0 is too little. So maybe like 0. I don't know, 2? That's too little. We want more. 8? Oh, that's quite a bit. Maybe something in between, maybe 5. Yeah, that looks cool. And now we can just rotate this baby around, and the trees are moving with it. And you see there is no jumping in the splitting, it's all behaving very naturally. And that's really cool. Very nice. And I mean, you can, in the back there, if you look over here, that's really, it really is looking like there's wind blowing on these trees. Nice. Okay, so we got that taken care of, and for our animation we could animate this slowly, have it sort of swaying around. Not going to do that right now. You can just, you know, rotation keys you can set yourself, I assume. I'm sorry, that sounded kind of condescending. I apologize. So what can we do? What else is missing? Well, as I said earlier, leaves. We're missing leaves. So let's add some. Just pull this down here. And whenever you're recording tutorials, there's always a lack of space. You know, when you're used to having like 2 or 3 monitors in a studio, and then you're constrained to this little space here, I'm sure everyone knows the feeling. When you're like on your laptop or something. Okay, so let's get going. How can we create leaves? Well, we have this cool compound under styling called create filler particles, which creates particles around other particles. In this case, the tips of our strands, which is exactly where we want the leaves. We kind of want the leaves sort of up here in the branches, so that, you know, that's where nature would put them, since there they have the most contact with the sun and can perform photosynthesis the most effective. So yeah, let's just plug this in, and this is a stylizer, as it says here under styling, and we can just plug this in. Cool. And oh, geez, yeah, that's kind of psychedelic. Not quite what we want, but you know, you get the idea. So let's see what we can do about this. Let's change this horrible color to something a bit more passable. Okay, what do we have? We have a lot of particles. Guess we can reduce that maybe a bit, 25 or something. And yeah, that's looking kind of a bit better, a bit more, you know, scars are there now. Let's see, here are these parameters that allow us to sort of move them around, spread them around. Spread along velocity just basically says how far along the sort of direction of the strand should the leaves be spread. So if we reduce this a bit to, I don't know, like 1 or something, yeah. It looks a bit more civil, and it's a bit more up there, and that looks kind of nice. And spread size is just how far away to the side they move from the strands, and the spread variance is sort of just a random factor on that. And you know, we can play with these values. Like, I think that looks fine. I don't think we have to do any tweaking on this. This looks good. Now we can actually watch them grow a bit. You know? Oh, they're coming up. More leaves, more leaves. Oh, that's looking kind of nice. So we already got our effect kind of figured out, but of course it needs some tweaking. If I render this right now, we won't really be able to see the leaves. They're just like these spots, and you know, that doesn't look too bad. This could maybe be a cherry tree when it's in bloom if you put some pink in there, but we want a full summer, like European, you know, woods look. So what can we do about that? Well, we could use real leaves and instance them, but I don't want to die before this render finishes, so I'm just going to go with a different shape here on our filler particles and say rectangle. That looks terrible because they're all pointing in the same direction. That's no good. What can we do about that? Well, we can get one of our compounds here under utility, and then we have a couple of compounds that sort of create random effects, and you need to use the LKL random effect ones. Otherwise, due to LKL's special nature, they won't quite work because there's a special ID system and things like that to make it all work and to make nothing jump around. So, you know, we need to randomize the direction of these. They can't all be pointing in the same direction. I mean, this looks awful. So let's go to randomize rotation. There we go. And we can just, I don't know, is this set? Yeah, this is fine. This is basically from 180 to minus 180. That's fine. All directions are good for us. And oh, this is looking a whole lot better. Now this makes me realize that these particles are a bit too big, I think. I think we should reduce their size quite a bit. Maybe to something like, I don't know, 0.2? Oh no, that's too little. 0.4 maybe. Yeah, that's kind of good. But we should have some variance on there. Not all leaves are the same size. So let's get one of our randomized around value nodes. We had 0.4 here, so let's just plug that in. Set this base value to 0.4, and the variance is way too big, so I don't know, 0.1 or something. And yeah, this creates some nicely different sizes here. Maybe we could 5. You know, you can play around with that. And this is starting to look a whole lot nicer. But it's you know, it's looking quite uniform. So I guess we should do something about the color. You know, give them some different shades. And we can do that by going to randomize color by gradient. Very cool. And we can just plug this into our color port. And oh yeah, we're back in psychedelic land. Yeah, we're going to have to do something about this. So let's just take a look at this gradient. Okay, yeah, we don't really need most of these colors. Let's just get rid of them. Bam. Piss off. Thanks. It's nice knowing you. So yeah, let's just pick some nice, you know, leafy colors. Like lightish green, something like that. Maybe a darker green, you know, around there. Maybe sort of slightly lime green, maybe. Can we do something like that? Yeah, that's looking nice. Like, yeah, that's looking kind of cool. And then maybe a bit of a couple of leaves that have turned a bit yellowish. I don't know. We'll see. Does that look good? Maybe dim yellow. Just so you know, we have different shades of green here. Yeah, I like that. That looks cool. So let's see how that renders. Nothing at all, probably, because we haven't told the render tree to actually use these colors. So let's just go ahead and select our point cloud. Let's hit 7 to bring up the ice tree. Just give it its own material. We never change the scene material. That's the doctrine. And you know, let's just pull something in. Well, let's change the specular, because leaves are not that specular. So let's set that up to something higher, and that will make it look a bit dimmer. And let's just pull in the color attribute. Color attribute. This is a really cool node in the render tree, and this allows you to get the color from ice or from just in general, usually ice values, and use them in your ice tree. And you can also get vectors like this, scalars, all sorts of stuff. Really cool node. There are scalar and vector versions of this. And we can just plug this into our illumination and diffuse. And then we can see what this looks like. Oh, we'll have pink trunks. Oh, my bad. And I'm realizing that our leaves are too big, so we should probably reduce the size of the leaves a bit to 0.25 and the variance to 1. How about that? Let's take a look. And yeah, that's looking a lot nicer. There's now some space in there, but we do have the pink trunk, so we're going to have to do something about that. Let's just go to the side here and let's render this. And up here, we can on our emitter, we can change the color of these. And these are looking, it's not really visible in the shade, but they are pink. So let's set this to brownish, I guess, something like that. It's maybe a bit red. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, that's looking fine. If you don't think that that's the color of trunks, then you can go ahead and change that. Or if you're I don't know the English name of it, but there are trees which also have like white or a light grayish trunks, and you can of course change that to that color as well. So you know, we're almost done, I guess, right? It's still, everything is still working. We can still, you know, play around with our wind here, and everything is moving with it. It's really cool. Everything is growing. And oh yeah, here I'm seeing something that I might want to fix. So if you take a look here, we can definitely see that like the leaves are sort of pushed out from the trunk. So that's not something that's going to work. So what we should do is just animate on our create filler particles node here and tell it to sort of increase the spreading over time. So just, I don't know, maybe at 70 frames or so, it's probably done. And then we can just set this to the values we designed. We sort of designed them for when the trees were fully grown. And then at the end, at the beginning, set these to, yeah, I guess 0. Just set them to 0. And now this should be a bit more pleasing of a behavior. Yeah, now they're a lot more closer to the tree, and now it really just sort of grows out. Yeah, that looks nice. Very cool. I like that. That looks cool. Yeah, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Wait, we haven't made it look like it's fall, so what can we do about that? Well, let's first design our fall. So let's duplicate the gradient and let's plug this into the color port. And let's make this fall. I guess brownish hues. This sort of light green would turn the darkest, I guess, because it's already sort of decaying. It already has lost that deep greenishness. Let's pull this down to, I don't know, something brownish. And let's choose some lighter shades of brown here, maybe something a bit reddish, like that. Yeah, that looks cool. And then, you know, just an average brown over here. And a bit of yellow at the end, you know, just some leaves are still yellow. Yeah, that looks nice. Yeah, that's cool. Nice. Yeah, that looks like fall. But we don't really have a transition. If you take a look at the file, which I've closed because I'm a moron, but we can totally fix that. If you could take a look at this here, it sort of gradually goes from summer to fall. And not even all trees at once. It's sort of, yeah, just it's sort of this gradual development. So how can we do that? Well, there's this thing in ICE called a blend color node, and we're just going to utilize that. So let's go to blend color. Nice. And you have these different color ports here where you can pull in your different colors. This is fall, right? Okay, so we're going to pull that in value 2, and going to put summer, that's this one, in value 1. Plug it in, and we'll, yeah, they'll just go black because none of these weights are enabled. So if I set this to 1, then it's using the summer color. If I set this to 1, then it's sort of a mix, using a mix of both. And if I set this to 0, it is only using the one from value 2, which is fall. So we're going to have to find a way to blend between these. We could just animate them, I guess. But I want to do something a bit neater. Also, I want to sort of make this happen by age. We have this cool compound here, utility, and where is it? Modulate value by age, and that way sort of the trees that have come up later in the summer will go darker a bit later, which might not be quite realistic, but it's kind of a neat effect, I find at least, so that we sort of have some trees going dark, but some not quite, as we can see here. See, and that's actually like this. This is sort of what early mid-fall looks like, at least where I'm from. So how can we do this? Well, we could just set up a subtract chain. We basically want when fall is coming up, when it's at 1, this should be at 0. When it's sort of at half, this should be also sort of at half, so that we get this nice orangey, lightly yellowish thing. So we can just, you know, subtract 1 from, take 1 and subtract a value that we grow from it. So let's just do that. Scalar, let's set this to 1. Let's get ourselves a subtract node. And yeah, we can just plug that in. Let's also get another scalar, this here. And you know, now I can plug in this value here. This starts out at 0, and it sort of gets stronger as the fall is coming on. And this is 1, this is basically going to be 1 minus that value. We can just plug in that for the summer, so that the summer value, the summer color value, gets weaker as the fall gets stronger. And now I can just lightly pull on this, and we get a very nice transition. You know, I can just go a bit closer here. We can just sort of go up by increments like, I don't know, 0.1. Still very much summer. Increase it a bit more. Turn a bit browner. There we're sort of coming into fall. Almost, it's like late summer. And then we're pretty much in fall. And then you can even overdrive this. You can go like to 0.25 or something. And then it goes really dark. Or we're just going to stick to 1. And then we're in full fall at 1. Now, to get that effect that they change at slightly different times, we're just going to use the H, which is a value that, even though it's not simulated, LKL provides. And we can just plug this into our little value here and say, yeah, just go over time. Let's set the value to 1. And, you know, just use our curve here to change this value 1 to first, I don't know, 0, and then to something higher at the end. Now, let's take a look at this here. And that's the list. Sort of the trees are coming up, they're growing, and sort of, I don't know, maybe sort of start at 1, and then here at 80 they're in full growth, and I kind of want to give them a bit of time to be in full growth in summer, so maybe after 100 frames or so they could start aging. So let's set our 0 keyframe here to 100 frames, and then, I don't know, maybe towards the very end to, what's the very end, 200? Like here at like 180 or something, there it should be full fall. Maybe let's pull this out a bit to just make that a bit of a more of a ramp up, and that looks nice. And let's take a look. Just go through here. Nice. And yeah, then here towards the end, it's slowly in different places starting to turn fall, and that's looking really nice. Here, fall is just starting for that tree, and here it's already full fall. And that's kind of nice. I like that. Very cool. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much the effect. All you got to do now is, you know, just pull up this number of particles here a bit to, I don't know, 5 or something, to get a bit denser of a forest, and then yeah, there you go. And my graphics card isn't coping or something. This is not even that many particles. This shouldn't even be a million particles, but well, it's almost a million particles. But my graphics card, even though it's like a 680, it just can't cope. Anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope I haven't talked too much. I hope I haven't rambled too much. And yeah, I really hope all of these features are exciting for you. You see, there's a lot of possibility going on here. You know, you can literally grow a forest with this. You can do all sorts of animations. And yeah, as I once again want to say, I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this and to experiment. LKLightning 2.0 will be out very soon, and yeah, I really hope that you'll have fun with that. Let's play with our trees here for a moment again. Now pull this up, and oh yeah, they're swaying in the wind. That's really cool. I know you could animate this and everything. That's fantastic. Okay, I hope this was fun for you. I hope it was interesting for you, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Have a good day.